I make the motion to return to regular session.
Second?
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
All right, our next item on today's agenda is the approval of the Rumpke agreement. I believe we're just moving forward. I think there was a slight increase, but with our other partners, everyone is on board with moving forward with what we have. Anything any one of you would like to add?
I still think it is a considerable savings by having all three townships together. And it's been 3 years since we've had an increase, so I'm in support.
Yep, I agree with that. I do want to recognize Genoa Township and being the kind of the tip of the spear on this effort, and then providing all of the documentation they did for our review as requested. I thought that they did a nice job compared to other communities. I want our township to know that we have a far superior, offer that we obtained through partnering. So it's a good deal for everybody.
And I don't have a formal resolution here today, but I think we do have consensus then to move forward.
We'll need to have a resolution.
We will.
By next
Yes. Yeah. I do want to make sure everyone was on board.
meeting. I
moving
imagine
forward.
Paul will might need to have something by then.
You can just make a motion and we can formalize it through resolution at the next meeting if you like, to retain Rumpke as our trash and our waste provider, if you will.
I make the motion to approve Rumpke as our current as our.
Waste and recycling.
I make the motion to approve Rumpke as our waste and trash recycling.
Right.
Right. Thank you.
Second.
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto,
Yes.
All right. And then our next item is our current park hours and availability of the parks as we work through the coronavirus and changes that need to be made. I know Trustee Grumbles, I think you'd had some discussions and you can catch us up to where we currently stand.
I apologize. I didn't hear you.
No, I think you've been working with Mr. Cowan. If you want to kind of catch us up to where we're at right now.
Sure.
For availability.
So the parks have been taped off. I know today I saw some posts that reflect Glen Oak Park still being used, some of the play structure there. I saw some pictures and stuff that people were posting about that, and the concern there being that those play structures have the apologize here. The other, if you recall, the message we got from the health district, the virus is sustaining itself on the hard surfaces for quite some time, so we'll need to get that taped off too over there. A little smaller play structure, but for the most part, the parks and playgrounds have been cordoned off and signs have been posted. And I know we put out on communications that on Facebook and through our different communication channels that that's the case. The green space is still open. We've asked that everybody that comes to the park maintain distance, appropriate here with the guidance, and that any group activity be minimized and not exceed the 10-person guidance from the government. So all of that's taken place already. We do need a formal resolution to retroactively authorize Bill to make that call, and that's the purpose of the resolution before you. My preference would be to allow Bill to determine the appropriate access and that kind of thing for his various parks. And also with respect to rentals and the different facilities at the parks, I want to make sure we're clear that this would include that authorization under sub-bullet A where there's a ability to provide clarity. So it would be for parks, play structures,
Shelters, community room,
community rooms would be one. Yep. Community rooms and other, I would just say, and other assets the township maintains for public use. Just kind of give him that authority to make the call there on the, board's behalf, so that we're not having a special meeting every time a new guidance comes out from the governor. Bill, does that sound good to you?
Hi, everyone. Yes, and I appreciate just been, following guidelines, chief nobles and information from the governor's office, things like that. I don't think we're overran any means, but I would appreciate to be able to do that. I would certainly contact you as trustees, letting you know, if we do make changes or plan on shutting something down. I'll let you know ahead of time.
Right, and Bill, this would kind of shift that that onus over to you a bit as well. So it would be more of a discussion as far as, what you're with Chief Noble and coming up with an appropriate response based on the latest and greatest guidelines. The purpose of this resolution is to not require us to have a special meeting every time and give you the authority as a department head to make those decisions.
I appreciate that.
So I think we'll,
what was it?
Do Monday. Just do Monday. We'll be fine.
The
Well-
16th.
16th, yeah. So I think we have everything we need to plug in here, but I'm just going to make a motion to pass the resolution title. I think we're all in agreement on what needs to be said.
I'd still read everything just because.
I would too. Yeah, I would recommend that.
Should be retroactive to, so we want the 16th. I make the motion to approve resolution 20-165, whereas the board desires to delegate certain authority to the Director of Operations Parks Director and authorize him to take any appropriate action consent with in accordance with such authority. Now therefore be it resolved, A, the board hereby delegates to the Director of Operations Parks the following authority and authorizes him to take any appropriate action consistent with in accordance with such authority: parks, play structures, shelters, community rooms, and other assets the township maintains. B, the above delegation of authority and authorization shall be retroactive to March 16th, 2020. C, all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22. D, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Second?
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
All right, that takes us to our next item, which is discussion regarding telework. Trustee Grumbles, I think,
Sure.
on this one as well.
I'll be happy to allow Amanda to introduce that. We kind of worked back and forth a little bit on this, and took resources and made them our own that were available. I reviewed the work she put together. There was a couple small edits that I saw, and I know some of the team provided a little feedback that wasn't, it doesn't change the the actions or whatever you want to call them that are taking place here, and the bulk of the agreement and everything like that, the format is fine. Essentially what this does is it allows the department heads and the board to align on roles that are determined critical. Should we declare in the township there's a state of emergency, or make a decision as a board to enact the plan, that we would have certain individuals report still or work remotely, essentially those critical to keep the township moving forward. So I would ask that the board consider that plan that she put together, and we can make edits and revisions and approve those as necessary. I would ask that in lieu of having continual special meetings, that the board would grant me the authority to work with Amanda and approve on its behalf any changes required based on, to go similar to how we did with Mr. Cowan, any changes that come through as a result of the governor and his announcements that we foresee happening in the near future. And this is another one where we'll need a formal resolution in time. I would suspect today I would ask that we approve with a motion and get that to move forward, and we can assign appropriate reference to that.
I'll let you go ahead and make the motion.
May I say something
Sure. Yeah.
regards to the policy? So at the last meeting on March the 16th, we talked about this a little bit. There are plenty of other public entities around us that are in the same situation. How do they handle continuance of operation because we're not shut down at all? So we pulled the best of information out of all those policies, and we added it to a sample that Trustee Grumbles had provided to me. It was pretty bare bones, but we were able to beef it up specific to Orange Township and our operational needs, our department. And I think it encompasses everything we're looking for. The biggest thing is, even though we've already started this as of Tuesday, the 17th, and it would be retroactive, we have a policy. It's specific to COVID-19. If there's another situation or pandemic moving forward, we can obviously make it specific to that. But what it does is anybody that works in the administration role, and as he said, by department, the team leader would make that decision and sit down and make sure it's best for that employee to work from home. They have the equipment that they're able to work from home, and it sets out guidelines and parameters on what that looks like, what they can do and what they can't do, because they're still working and being paid on behalf of the township. So not only is there a policy, there's an authorization form, so we have it in writing, we can put it in their file. So, and then a piece of this policy would be the emergency declaration. So if the state, township, federal government decides to declare a specific emergency, it then gives us immediate action for what employees are essential and have to report to work: police, fire, EMS, certain things like that. Who is essential but can work remotely? In that case, it would be mostly department heads, and we have that capability already. Who would be non-essential and would not need to report to work, and they would not need to teleremote in. And something like that would be if there's a level 3 snow emergency, they get paid regardless. That would be similar to what we have. And that is consistent with how others are handling it as well. Obviously, things are changing, as Trustee Grumble said, so this fits us right now. And I know there's a few small things we want to change in there, but I would agree, and that, if you at least adopt it now, we can get the ball rolling. Should other things happen, we can make those edits and changes and roll the most recent version out on the way or along the way. But if there's any questions, please let me know, and we can try to answer everything. I have tried to talk to most employees to kind of let them know how that works or answer any questions that the team leaders have had. So if they're unsure, since it's all brand new territory for all of us, we're still kind of learning as we go. And once the emergency declaration would be over, employees would be able to telework in the current situation we're in. Once the COVID-19 pandemic is over and those restrictions are lifted, we would go back to normal township operations. So it's kind of in phases, and this policy is wrote, should we move to the emergency declaration, we don't have to then write another policy. It's already in place, so we can take action at that point. We thought it would be good to add it in at that point. We may need it, we may not need it, but in case we do, it's here and available. And employees could change designation. You'll see that I only put down fire and EMS as essential, but there are some in non-essential that may need to move designation if there's a road closure or if a tree is down. And I designated those as those employees may need to be changed. And that's on a case-by-case basis. They may not at all, but in case they do, they would be made aware, hey, we need to bring you in for this specific situation. And I think that has also been relayed to those staff that you could be jumping back and forth, but it's specific.
So I'm going to work with Bill. I think Bill's department is the most, probably the most challenging here. Chief is already part of his job is, with being in the fire department. I think it's a different dynamic. But I think Bill specifically has some challenging, decisions and kind of potential choices to make here as we continue to see change come through. Today there were some decisions that were made that had to kind of go back on, if you will, and pause until the meeting today. And that's why I would ask for the authority to work with Amanda as a board member in administrative capacity to finalize this plan with the department heads, and then have a version 1 that we would then disseminate through the team via email upon completion and full completion. And then we would be able to schedule a follow-up special meeting to lock in via resolution what that is. But today we need to, from a retroactive standpoint, get a motion pushed through to approve what we've done today. There's some alignment on things like the administrative role. A little different from level 3 snow emergency in some regards, because this is something that's not going to be a day or two for the snow to melt. So I think we need to make sure we're equipped to move forward. So with that, I'm comfortable making the motion now. You okay, Deb? You have any concerns? Okay. Make a motion to approve the township telework effort, including the telework policy Appendix A, and the telework authorization form as presented to the board March 19th, 2020. Trustee Grumbles will work in partnership with HR Manager Amanda Sheetram to finalize and modify with the latest guidance and present updates and finalized policy to the board for formal resolution. Motion is retroactive to March 16th, 2020.
Second.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
I know you both put a lot of hard work into that.
Yeah.
It's not-
Amanda did a tremendous job on that today. I was really impressed with what she
Thank you.
did.
Thank you.
All right, and as we've been working through the applications for our open current administrator role, I think we've made some progress here and are looking to move forward. There's two things. Obviously, we need to agree on making the offer to, and then with the current environment and with staff and the changes that we're dealing with, we'd like to have a third party assist in putting together the contract agreement and to work with me as with our meetings and our day-to-day office hours. That's been changing and is probably going to continue to change. So with that unknown, I think we all like to see the position get filled, and we know that these things aren't quick and take a decent amount of time. After going through the candidates, I think of who we reviewed, and I want to thank all the candidates and everyone that's been in the application and came in and spoke with us and put forth the efforts and showing interest in working as an administrator for our township. I found with the background, the different duties and the needs of the job and looking for that well-rounded individual. I thought Andrew King would do a great job and be a great fit for the role. I'm prepared to move forward and make an offer here today. Anything to add?
There was a lot of good candidates, and I know quite a lengthy discussion now spanning 2 meetings to get to the point that we are today. And I think that it's a situation where you have to take into account dynamic within the township, with the staff, the team, and then skills and capabilities and background of each candidate, and then obviously the perspective from the interviews and references. So I would just like to echo your gratitude towards those that applied and spending the time they did with us to come in and meet us and talk to us.
So I have a resolution here approving Eastman and Smith to assist with negotiations in hiring the administrator, and then I'm just going to make a motion as far as the job offer. So I make a motion to approve resolution 20-167, approving negotiations to hire an administrator of the township.
Second?
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto,
Yes.
And I make the motion to approve the job offer of township administrator to Andrew King.
Second?
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto.
Yes.
All right, that covers all of our business for today. Like I said, we will be continuing our efforts as things change and keeping the community updated as we all work through this. And
And again, what they come up with contract-wise, everything will be brought back to the trustees, correct?
yes, correct. This is just to make an offer. Then once the terms are decided on, that will come back to the board for final approval. All right, and with that, today's meeting is adjourned.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Rivers,
Yes.
Trustee Grumbles,
Yes.
Trustee Taranto.
Yes.
Hey, Ben, thank you.
You bet. I'll reach